I don't remember the first time I noticed her. Maybe it was always there, the quiet awareness of her, the way she moved, the way her voice carried warmth even when she barely said a word. She wasn't just my neighbor. She was her. Graceful, deliberate, the kind of woman who seemed to have lived 1,000 lives in the space of her 40-something years. And then there was me, 26, restless, circling her world without ever meaning to, drawn closer with every stolen glance. Tonight, though, something was different. The air between us felt too heavy, too still. We were standing in her living room. I had come by to help with a small thing, fixing the stubborn light switch she'd been mentioning. A simple reason, an excuse really. But the way she looked at me when I stepped inside made the whole house feel smaller, the walls pressing in, her nearness impossible to ignore. She offered me tea. I didn't want it. Or maybe I wanted only to watch her hands as she poured, steady but softer than she wanted them to be. Her fingers brushed mine as she handed me the cup. Just a touch, no more than a second, but it burned. "You're quiet tonight," she said, lowering herself onto the sofa across from me. Her tone carried casual ease, but her eyes didn't match. They lingered too long, searching for something she wouldn't name. "I'm just thinking," I managed. "About?" I shrugged, buying myself time, sipping the tea that had already gone lukewarm. "About how you make this place feel different." Her lips parted, just slightly, as though she wanted to answer and stopped herself. The silence stretched, filled with the ticking clock on the wall, the faint hum of the refrigerator down the hall. She sat straighter, tucking one leg beneath her, the neckline of her blouse shifting in a way that made my throat tighten. I told myself to look away. I didn't. She caught me, of course. A small smile tugged at her lips, not mocking, not amused, something heavier. She leaned back, but her gaze never broke from mine. "You've grown up," she said finally, almost under her breath. My pulse jumped. "And you've noticed." Her laugh was soft, but it wasn't light. It carried weight, history, a hint of regret that I couldn't place. She set her cup down, fingers trembling the tiniest bit, betraying what her composed voice tried to hide. "I shouldn't have said that," she whispered. "Why not?" I asked, leaning forward, elbows on my knees. The space between us felt charged, alive, like the room itself held its breath. "Because—" She stopped. Her eyes flickered to the window, the curtains swaying with the late-night breeze. "Because some things don't need to be said." But I didn't lean back. I didn't give her the distance she was silently asking for. "Then let me say it." Her hand tightened on the edge of the sofa cushion, knuckles widening. Her breath caught, just barely, but I heard it. And for a moment, just one fragile, suspended heartbeat, it felt like the world bent closer, narrowing down to her eyes and mine, to the warmth of her body only a step away. Then, a sharp knock rattled the front door. Her entire body flinched, her gaze snapping toward the sound, the spell breaking. I sat frozen, the words I hadn't yet said stuck in my throat. She rose slowly, smoothing her blouse, steadying herself before she moved. But before she turned away, her eyes caught mine again, burning with something I couldn't name. And I knew that knock had saved us from something we weren't ready for. The knock on the door had faded into nothing more than a memory by the time I returned the next evening. She hadn't invited me. I told myself I was only dropping off a package the courier had left on my porch by mistake. But when she opened the door, her hair tied loosely, sleeves rolled up from washing dishes, the house filled with the soft smell of soap and citrus, it didn't feel like a mistake at all. She hesitated, as if calculating whether to let me in. Then, with a half-smile, she stepped aside. Her living room was dim, only the glow of a lamp in the corner. She sat across from me again, but this time there was no pretense of tea or small talk. Just silence stretching. I broke it. "You've lived here how long?" 12 years, she answered, folding her arms, then unfolding them again. "Married when I moved in. Divorced 3 years ago." Her tone was calm, but the word divorced hung between us, sharp-edged. She caught my look and added, "It wasn't dramatic. Just quiet. He stopped seeing me." I stopped trying to be seen. I swallowed, unsure what to say. Something in her honesty pulled at me, the rawness beneath her composed voice. And you? She asked, almost too quickly, as though steering attention away from herself. I laughed softly. Nothing so serious. I've had short things. Mostly people my age. I hesitated, then added, it never lasts. I guess I always want more than they do. Her eyes softened, almost guilty. You shouldn't want more from me. I didn't say I did, I murmured, though my chest tightened at the lie. Her gaze flickered to my hand resting on the armrest, her own brushing dangerously close as she adjusted her seat. She lingered there for a heartbeat too long. The warmth of her body leaned toward me before she caught herself, straightening sharply, as though afraid of her own movement. You're too young, she said finally. The words were firm, but her voice cracked just enough to betray the truth beneath. And you're too careful, I countered. That earned me a look, not angry, not amused. Just searching, like she was testing the edges of how far I'd push. She shook her head, but a small laugh escaped her. God, you really are your age. I notice things, I said quietly, leaning forward. The way you tuck your hair behind your ear when you're nervous. How you hold your breath before you say something you don't mean. She froze. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Instead, she pressed a hand lightly against my shoulder, just for balance, just an excuse. But she didn't remove it right away. Her touch lingered, soft, deliberate, almost trembling. The air shifted. Her breath brushed my cheek as she leaned in, close enough that I could smell the faint sweetness of her perfume. Neither of us moved beyond that. We didn't kiss, didn't dare. But the pause held everything. When she finally pulled back, her eyes shimmered with something unspoken. I knew then, the distance she was trying to keep was already broken. The third evening came without planning. She called it favor, but I knew better. A shelf too high, a box too heavy, excuses that dissolved the moment I crossed her threshold. Her house was quieter than usual. No television, no music. Just the faint hum of a lamp and the sound of her moving beside me as we pushed the box into the corner. My arm brushed hers. Too close. Too warm. Neither of us pulled away. She stood there a second longer than necessary, her hand on the side of the box though it was already steady. My pulse pounded against my ribs. I could almost hear hers. I shouldn't keep bothering you, she said softly, her face turned away. You don't, I whispered, though the way my voice broke gave me away. Silence pressed in again, thick and heavy. Then, the shrill buzz of her phone. She jumped. The device lit up on the counter, the name, Anna, flashing on the screen. Her friend. The one who sometimes waved at me from across the yard, the one who still thought of me as the kid next door. Don't answer, I said before I could stop myself. She glanced at me, startled. The phone buzzed again. Her hand hovered, then withdrew. She let it ring out, unreadable. I can't, she began, her voice trailing. You can't what? Her eyes flickered over my face, lingering on my mouth before darting away. I can't explain why you're here so often. What people would think. Her words were firm, but her body betrayed her. She stepped closer as she said them, as though distance had become unbearable. My hand brushed against hers where it rested at her side. She didn't move it. The room was too small. Or maybe we were too close. My breath caught when her shoulder brushed mine, when her hair, loose tonight, grazed against my cheek as she bent to pick up something from the floor. When she rose, she didn't step back. We were inches apart. The quiet between us thundered. My hand lifted, almost on instinct, fingertips grazing the bare skin of her wrist. Her breath hitched, and she closed her eyes for half a second too long. It would have been so easy. Lean forward, close the space, taste what I had been imagining for nights. But she turned her face slightly, stopping the moment before it broke. Her voice was a whisper, strained. You don't know what this would cost me. I don't care, I murmured. You should. Her eyes opened again, locking with mine, and for the first time there was no denial in them. Only fire and fear, and something she refused to name. The phone buzzed again from across the room, but neither of us moved. She didn't kiss me. I didn't kiss her. But when her hand slid into mine, fingers trembling, holding on longer than either of us meant to, it was already too late. By the fourth night, the excuses were gone. She didn't ask me to fix anything, didn't pretend it was convenience. I just knocked, and she let me in. Her living room was lit only by the soft glow of a single lamp. Shadows stretched long across the walls, wrapping the space in something more private, more dangerous. She was standing by the window when I walked in, arms folded, her figure outlined by the faint glow of the streetlight outside. For a moment she didn't turn. "You shouldn't keep coming here," she said finally. Her voice was steady, but the way her fingers gripped her own arms betrayed the tremor beneath. "Then tell me to stop." She turned then, her eyes locking with mine, not cold, not welcoming, just raw. "You think I don't want you here?" The words stunned me. Hung heavy. I stepped closer, slow, deliberate. "Do you?" She exhaled sharply, almost a laugh, almost a sob. "God, you have no idea what you're asking." Her body leaned against the wall now, as though she needed it to stay upright. I moved close enough to feel the heat radiating off her skin. My hand lifted before I thought better of it, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek. My fingertips grazed her temple, her jaw, lingering there longer than they should. She didn't move away. Instead, her eyes fluttered shut, her breath catching as though she'd been holding it in all these nights. I leaned in, not enough to touch, but close enough that my voice was low against her ear. "Then tell me you don't think about it." "About me?" Her hand lifted, trembling, pressing flat against my chest. Not pushing me back, just feeling the beat of my heart, as though measuring the danger in its pace. Her lips parted, but the words came broken. "You're too young, and I'm beautiful." I cut in, my voice rougher than I intended. Her eyes snapped open at that. Something inside her cracked. She grabbed the edge of my shirt, pulling me a breath closer, her forehead brushing mine. The nearness made my head swim, her perfume, faint and floral, the warmth of her body pressed almost against mine, the tremble in her hand clutching me as though she might let go if she didn't hold tighter. "I shouldn't," she whispered, her lips grazing the corner of my mouth without meaning to. "But you want to." Her laugh was strangled, pained, a sound that made my stomach twist. "Wanting isn't the problem. Surviving afterward is." The words lodged between us like a warning, but neither of us stepped back. My hand slid down, resting on her waist, feeling the fragile strength in the way she held herself still. Her lips hovered inches from mine. A second. Another. Then, a sharp knock at the window. A neighbor's voice calling her name through the glass. She jolted, clutching me harder before shoving me back, her breath ragged. Her eyes blazed with panic, with desire, with everything she refused to say. And in that instant I knew, the next time we were this close, there would be no stopping. She didn't answer her neighbor that night. By the time the footsteps faded down the path, she was standing in the middle of the living room, arms wrapped around herself as if she could hold all the pieces together. I was still close, too close, the echo of her warmth on my chest where she had gripped me. "You should go," she said, but her voice wasn't steady. I nodded, though I didn't move. "Is that really what you want?" Her silence was louder than anything else. Finally, she turned her back to me, shoulders stiff. "Anna asked about you yesterday." I froze. "What do you mean?" "She saw you leaving here late. She asked if you were helping me with something more than boxes." The last words caught, trembling on her tongue. The air snapped tight. "What did you tell her?" I asked. Her laugh was low, bitter. I lied. "I told her you were just being kind, neighborly. That's what I should believe too, isn't it?" I moved closer without meaning to. "Do you?" She spun around then, eyes blazing, cheeks flushed. "Don't you understand? Us, it isn't invisible. People see. They whisper. They'll make me the foolish woman who couldn't grow old gracefully, who clung to a boy half her age. The words stung, but more than that, they revealed something raw. Her fear wasn't just about me. It was about herself, about how much she already cared. Is that what you think I am to you? I asked, my voice low, almost shaking. Her breath faltered. Her hand rose as if to touch me, then fell uselessly at her side. No, she whispered. That's the problem. For a moment neither of us moved. Then I stepped forward, closing the space, her back brushing the edge of the wall as I loomed closer. My hand hovered at her waist but didn't touch. The scent of her perfume, faint and lingering, pulled me in. She pressed her palms flat against the wall, like she needed something solid to keep herself upright. If I admit this, her voice cracked, I don't know if I'll be able to stop. I leaned in, forehead almost touching hers. Then don't. Her lips parted, no words, only silence and breath. My hand finally found hers, fingers sliding between hers with a grip that was both question and answer. Her body shivered against mine, and for a heartbeat, it felt like everything had already been decided. But then she pulled her hand free, clutching her chest as if I'd stolen something from her. This will ruin me, she whispered, trembling. And you don't even see it. The space between us became unbearable, fear and want tangled, choking. I stepped back, giving her room, though my chest ached from the loss. Then tell me to leave for good, I said, my voice raw. She didn't. She just closed her eyes, shaking her head once, tears threatening but unshed. And that silence, her refusal to let me go, even as she pushed me away, told me everything. The next night, I told myself I wouldn't go. I paced my kitchen, stared at the clock, convinced I had the strength to stay away. But before I knew it, my knuckles were at her door again. She opened it slowly, as though she'd been expecting me. No words, just her eyes, tired, restless, alive. She stepped aside. I entered. The house was hushed, the kind of silence that presses against your skin. A storm tapped at the windows outside, wind whistling through the gaps, rain beginning to fall. She stood in the center of the room, arms folded tightly, as if holding herself together. I told you this would ruin me, she said, barely above a whisper. Then why did you open the door? Her breath caught. She didn't answer. I closed the space between us until I could feel her warmth through the air itself. My hand lifted, trembling, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. She flinched, not from fear but from the inevitability of it. My thumb lingered at her temple, tracing down her cheek. You're too close, she breathed. I'm not close enough. Her laugh broke, jagged and soft at the same time. God, you don't understand what this means for me. Then explain it, I whispered, leaning closer, my forehead almost touching hers. Her hands rose to my chest, pushing, but not hard enough to move me. Her palms flattened against me, feeling the uneven rhythm of my heart. I can't want this. But you do. Her eyes lifted to mine then, shimmering, defiant and desperate. She held the stare for a long, unbearable second before closing it, and stepping into me instead of away. Her body leaned against mine, her cheek brushing my jaw. The warmth of her breath spread across my skin, sending shivers down my spine. My hand slid down her arm, fingers finding hers, gripping tightly. We didn't kiss. Not yet. But the space between us had dissolved, erased. This is the last line, she whispered, her lips grazing so close I could feel the shape of her words. If we cross it, there's no going back. Then don't draw it, I said, voice breaking. Her silence was answer enough. She tilted her head, just slightly, and the world stilled. Her lips hovered against mine, the faintest brush, not a kiss but the promise of one. The storm outside grew louder, thunder shaking the walls, but nothing could pull me from that moment. Finally, she pulled back, only an inch, but enough to make me ache. Her hand slid down to mine, holding it with a grip that was both surrender and warning. We can't pretend anymore, she said, steady now. And for the first time, we both knew, whatever this was, it wasn't a mistake, it wasn't a game. It was real. Messy. Dangerous. Hours. The storm passed overnight, but the heaviness inside her house remained. We sat together in the dim glow of morning, both of us silent, both of us pretending the world outside hadn't shifted. She was curled on the sofa, knees tucked, hair loose and messy in a way I had never seen before. Her vulnerability cut through me more than anything she'd ever said. I sat on the edge, close enough to touch, but not daring yet. Finally, she spoke. I don't want to be a mistake you look back on. I shook my head, voice rough. You couldn't be. Not when you're the only thing that feels real to me. Her eyes softened, but doubt still lingered at the edges. People will talk. Let them. She laughed at that, a quiet, shaky laugh that made her press her hands to her face. When she lowered them, her eyes glistened. You make it sound easy. I reached for her hand then, slow, deliberate. She didn't pull away. Our fingers laced together, fitting with a certainty that words never could. It isn't easy, I said. But it's ours. Her body seemed to melt at that. She leaned into me, hesitant at first, then fully, her head resting against my shoulder. I could feel the warmth of her cheek through my shirt, the steady rhythm of her breath beginning to calm. I wrapped an arm around her, pulling her close, and for the first time in weeks there was no space left between us. For a long while either of us spoke. The house was still, just the sound of rain dripping outside and her quiet sighs, the kind that come when the fight inside finally breaks. You scare me, she whispered at last, her voice muffled against my chest. Why? Because I want this too much. I smiled, pressing my forehead to hers, our noses almost brushing. Then we're even. Her eyes closed, and I kissed her there, not her lips, not yet. Just her forehead. Gentle, certain. She exhaled a sound that was half relief, half surrender, and my chest tightened with something I couldn't name but knew I'd never let go of. When she finally lifted her face, she didn't look away. She didn't hide. So, what now? No, I said softly. We stop pretending we don't already belong to this. She didn't answer with words. She only slid closer, curling into me until we were tangled in the quiet comfort of each other, her hand pressed over mine, holding tight as if daring the world to try and pull us apart. And in that moment, imperfect, uncertain but alive, I knew we had chosen each other. That was enough. Sparkles, did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?